But welcome everyone to this Jedi workshop on EAB Navigate. Thanks so much for joining. For those of you who are here through our newly released Jedi 2 Do or Do Not Jedi Pi course, welcome and thank you for joining us. And for those of you who are just here to learn more about EAB Navigate and the ways in which we can use it to student retention. Thank you for joining us. Joshua Michael Rumley is here. He is San Francisco State's Navigator and e-advising coordinator and the guru of all things EAB Navigate. So thank you so much for joining us, Joshua, and I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Let me go ahead and get my screen. There we go. All right. Is everyone able to see the presentation screen? Awesome. Well, thank you for the warm welcome. My name is Joshua Michael Rumley. So I'm your point person for all things Navigator at San Francisco State University. Any troubleshooting, any training requests, I'm your point person for that. But I'm really happy to have this time with you today to talk about Navigator and how we can leverage it for retention and just supporting our students. For our agenda today, I think it's important to talk about what Navigator is, what it isn't, and just how we're using it at the institution. Um, I do have a spotlight where I want to feature some kind words from one of our super users. And we also have a super user in attendance today, Michelle Montoya from the Tutoring Center. So I'll definitely let her have a moment to talk about her experience. I think it's really important that we frame the conversation around student support and how Navigator really benefits that. Because I think it's been really transformative for me as a professional, as an academic advisor in a previous role. It really transformed how I worked with students. And I want to take a moment to talk about two important processes that faculty will oftentimes engage with in Navigator and just kind of dive a little deeper into what those processes are, how faculty might engage with them, and just how they benefit the overall experience for our students. I do want to summarize the faculty access, like what faculty have access to in the system. And today's presentation is really built up around the base faculty role in the system. And so we have three faculty roles in Navigator. We have the faculty role, which we're talking about today. We have the faculty advisor role, and we have the faculty chair. Some of you might have access to those other roles. So, feel free though, if you have questions about anything related to the permissions you have, we can definitely talk about that later on. But today is really kind of built up around just that baseline faculty role for instructors. At the end, I want to demonstrate the permissions and the access that faculty have access to. And in that period, we'll definitely have some activities and then just a general Q&A about the about Navigator. But I also want to point out that Sally Payson is in attendance as well. So Sally, do you want to introduce yourself and just your role with Navigator?
Um, Hello, everybody. So I'm Sally Passione. I am in the biology department, and I am officially the faculty director of advising, whatever that means. But I definitely use Navigator for my advising with biology students. And I am a limited Navigator user. I have much to learn.
Awesome. Thank you, Sally. But yeah, if any of you have questions at all, please feel free just to raise your hand. I'm happy to stop the presentation, just address your question as they come up. I'll be honest, I have a heck of a time monitoring the chat while I present, so feel free just to raise your hand and I'll call upon you. But first, we really got to define what Navigator is at San Francisco State University. So the system is actually called Navigate 360, and it's created by EAB, and so that's the company that creates it. But because we are the Gators, we refer to the system as Navigator. So if you hear EAB or Navigate 360, it's the same system. It's just Navigator. But what Navigator is, it's our student success and retention platform. And we first launched the tool back in 2018. And since then, we have really kind of evolved how we're using the tool. We've expanded the user base. We've brought on new support centers onto the platform. And we've really just transformed how we're using the tool, which then benefits the overall impact of the tool on student retention and success. What Navigator is really great at is it takes all of that campus solutions data, which is our main database at the institution. It takes all that information in and it crafts student profiles that summarizes all the key data points for our students in terms of their performance and progress. When I was an academic advisor using this, we used Banner, which was really it's a pretty outdated system. So when I got access to Navigator, it really transformed just how it really informed my practice with my students. And also just it allowed me to get that finger on the pulse about how my students were really doing with their coursework for the semester. But with those profiles, it allows us to have additional insight into what's going on with our students. An important part of Navigator at San Francisco State University are the progress reports, referrals, and cases that we have launched. Some of you maybe have received requests to fill out progress reports. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But progress reports really is kind of for the Golden Four or high DFW courses at the institution. We have some referrals in the system for campus resources, and we are piloting a case management process for a number of different areas of concern. Now, everything I've talked about so far is about the staff and faculty experience on Navigator, but for the students, Navigator has been really critical in giving them a centralized place where they can go to schedule appointments with their support centers at the institution. Uh, Prior to Navigator, they would have to contact their specific offices or departments to schedule that appointment. But with Navigator, they have one central location they can go to view appointment availabilities and schedule their appointments for support. So it's really transformed the student experience around getting support at the institution. But what really Navigator is and what we really hope it to be is a coordinated care system. I definitely have seen how the system has allowed us to break down the silos of our departments and offices and really bridge out to other offices to just really allow us to collaborate around student success and retention. Within the system, we can make referrals, we can see where students have been for support. And that was really something that we just didn't have before we had this system. So it's definitely allowed us to start establishing that idea of a coordinated care system at the institution. So for one of our spotlights, this is Antonella Cortez. She is the SSS Trio Program Coordinator, and Antonella has been a great partner in the progress report process. Trio is a program that has progress reports that are based on the students who are participating in their program. So it isn't really course specific, but the progress report process has really allowed Antonella's team to send requests directly to the faculty. That has allowed them to streamline ways of reducing stress for students and really ensuring that students are getting the support that they need in a timely fashion. With the progress report process, when faculty raise the alert on students, there are staff who are picking up that case and attempting to reach the student to find out what type of support they need and what type of referrals they might benefit from. So Antonella has been a great partner in the progress report process. And Michelle Montoya, do you want to hop on and just share some bits about your experience with the system?
Sure, happy to. Thanks, Joshua. So in tutoring, when faculty refer a student to get tutoring because of a low test score, we reach out to them in a couple ways. So one is that we use Navigator to invite them to schedule an appointment. So they'll get an email. We send text reminders too, in case they don't check their email, which they don't. And then once they click the link, it'll show all of the availability. So it makes just the appointment making process that much easier for the students. We also reach out to them. So we call all of the students who faculty refer to tutoring. just to check in, see how they're doing, if they want to schedule an appointment. When we do get them on the phone, we tend to schedule appointments. So it's proven to be a pretty good process for us in actually reaching the students and getting them to schedule the appointment. Whether or not they come in is another story. But sometimes they don't think they need the help. So it becomes pretty critical for you as faculty to let the students know that they're struggling, or that you're going to have, tutoring reach out to them, because when they expect it, then they're more likely to utilize it. Sometimes I think they just schedule the appointment to get us off the phone. But who knows? We do have quite a few students who do show up. And those who do show up are retained at higher rates, persist at higher rates. So we're excited to have the platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle. So in terms of student support, how does Navigator benefit that? Well, there's so much information that we as staff and faculty can go to that we can find in the system. So when you go to a student profile, you can see a student's major, who their assigned advisor is, their class standing. You can see where a student has been for support across campus. You can see any progress report flags that have been raised. And you can see that summary of the key performance and success indicators. So it really helps us have better context for supporting students. It allows us to stay more informed, and it allows us to have more tailored conversations with our students. If we're able to have that finger on the pulse about what's going on with our students, that can really help us kind of evolve how we're working with our students. And maybe it might benefit a referral to another resource on campus. With Navigator, we're able to easily identify, and we're able to identify early students who are having issues with their coursework. As faculty, you're on the front lines of working with our students, so you're really going to be the ones who are the first to know that students are experiencing issues with their courses in the term. And so because of that, the progress report process is really critical in getting students connected with the support that they might need to be successful in the semester. So when you get those progress reports, you're able to flag students of concern, you're able to redirect referrals for advising or tutoring. And when those referrals occur, there are staff that are picking those cases up and reaching out to the students to get them connected with support. And the impact that we've seen from this is that, early referrals increase persistence from one term to another, and it definitely reduces withdrawals. And it just helps students have a more successful semester and potentially recover from maybe a difficult start with their courses in the semester. Something that I've benefited from by using Navigator as an advisor is that I had a stronger connection to other professionals across campus who are using the tool as well. So I really do believe in this, that Navigator has allowed us to strengthen collaboration with the advisors and the other support units on campus. With Navigator, faculty can very easily see where students have been for support. They can see, if the referrals they made for the student, if the student has actually, gone to the specific office they were referred to, and faculty can stay informed about what's going on with their students across campus. With every support center that offers appointments on campus, there is the expectation that they are completing an appointment summary report. So that's a really important part of that process, because the staff person then makes notes about what was discussed, what was planned, what the next steps are for the student, and that's all saved to the student profile. And that's something that faculty have the ability to view. So you're able to know where a student has been for support, what was discussed, and maybe just that might result in another referral to another campus resource. And so it really helps us to stay unified and consistent in our support for our students across campus. Are there any questions before I move on to the important processes that faculty might deal with on the system?
Quick question or comment, Joshua. I've heard from faculty that they've made these referrals and then they haven't really heard anything back.
Hmm.
Is there a process where faculty can expect an email or something that that warm handoff was completed or the student was taken care of?
For sure. Yeah, I think the next two slides might address those questions
Okay.
because there are some nuances between the progress reports and some of the referrals that occur in the system. With the progress reports, that really ensures there's immediate follow-up with the student. And a part of that progress report process is closing the case and that notification to faculty who first initiated the case from the progress report process. So, after the staff has done all the work, they made their outreach efforts and they've closed the case, faculty should always be receiving that notification with a summary about what actions were taken to support the student. And so that's the progress report process. But we also have the passive support referrals. And with the passive support referrals, there is no case management process associated with it. The support referrals are a way for us to kind of have that handoff to the student with important campus information. Maybe we met with a student and they expressed a specific need for tutoring or maybe diversity inclusion resources on campus. We can come into the system and issue that referral, and it would generate an email to the student with information about what services are provided, where it's located, how to contact the office hours, and important website links. With this process, there is no case process, so there would be no notification to the faculty that, work has been done. We are hoping eventually we will have a case management process for these referrals, but that takes time and campus buy-in, and we are working on it. But at this time, the referrals is a way for us to just get important information to students about campus resources. And with the referrals, we always like to tell staff and faculty the students should be expecting the email. We hope that would also increase them opening it because as we know, students just don't read their emails. And so these should never be sent to students just without first talking to the student. So that's a really important part of that process. So in terms of the permissions that the base faculty role have in the system, um, instructors have the ability to view student profiles for students in the courses they're teaching. That is different from the faculty advisor, which can see profiles for every student on campus. So that's kind of a clear distinction between the two roles. That baseline faculty role only can view profiles for students in their courses. But within that, you can still see all the same information that every other faculty role can see on the profile. You can see the summary data for all the performance and progress indicators. You can view a student's success team. You can see a history of any referrals or progress reports that were issued. You can issue the passive support referrals. And you can also create and save notes to the profile. And you can also see any record of a progress report in the student's history. So it's still really important information and features that the faculty role still has access to. It's just restricted to the students in the courses they're teaching. For the student profile, this is just kind of an introduction. I will be demoing these features for you after I get through the next couple of slides, but this is just what the summary page looks like for the student profile. As you can see here, this is a summary of some really important indicators of performance and progress for a student. But also on this page, you can see information about their major, their classification, their contact information. You can also see any categories that are assigned to their profile and service indicators. And categories could be anything from whether they're an EOP student, Metro student, if they're a freshman, Fall 25 cohort. There's just a lot of information you can find on the profile. As you can see across the top here, there are additional tabs that I will show you a little later, but this just gives you the history of where a student has been for support, their course history, appointment history, and conversation history. So a lot of really great information. This is what the referral process looks like for those passive referrals. This is just a way to get the student connected with the important information that they've indicated they might need support with. When issuing these referrals, you can issue as many as referrals as appropriate for the student. And each referral you issue, it will generate a separate email to the student about that specific resource. When we first launched this, I worked with the respective offices to craft the messages. Some of them gave me a full message to use, and others I just wrote and they approved it. And they've approved all these messages. But it just has all the important information about the campus resource. As faculty, you're able to create notes on a student's record. Think of these notes as like a post-it note on a paper file. When I first started as an academic advisor, we actually had paper files and we actually used post-it notes for important information. But with Navigator, that really kind of evolved and changed how we, kept our records with our students. But notes are a really great way of just recording information about a student's academics that just isn't really associated with the appointment process. Because, that baseline faculty role, it doesn't have access to offering appointments. If they want to offer appointments in the system, they would need the faculty advisor role. And that's definitely something we could talk about if someone needs additional permissions. But with the note, this is a part of the student's profile and their record. And so this is just a great place to record that information that you might want to share with other staff and faculty about the student. Information to avoid putting here is information about medical, mental health concerns, any legal problems, any relationship problems, family concerns, or just conflicts with other people. This should really be about the academics. And as you can see here in this interface, we have some note reasons. There's a field here where you can see them. But we worked with our faculty director to develop a list of note reasons that might be useful for faculty. And so there are reasons such as like waivers or substitutions that you can kind of categorize the note for. And those are things you can select when creating the note. You can make this visible just to yourself by selecting yourself. You can give the student permission to see it. But if you don't select anything here, this is going to be visible to all staff and faculty who have the appropriate permissions to access the notes on the profile. I've mentioned the progress report process a few times, and I just wanted to show you what that process looks like. If you've ever have received the invitation, you probably are familiar with this process. But these are sent to specific courses, and you can see that these are organized by the courses. You have a column of information about the student name and ID. You can indicate yes or no if you have any concerns about the student passing the course. You can select an alert reason, and in the alert reason, you can select advising or tutoring for the referral. And if you were to issue those referrals, that would generate a case that gets assigned to Michelle Montoya in tutoring or Michelle in advising. It's a double Michelle experience, so we have two Michelles working the process. You're also able to indicate additional comments in the field as well. And I know that this is a really important field if you have to provide additional context about your concerns around the student. Michelle in advising is definitely, and Michelle Montoya, they're definitely seeing those comments in these referrals, and it plays an important part of getting students connected with the appropriate resource. This is just a list of the courses we're using for the progress report process for fall 25. These are the high DFW courses or the Golden 4 courses. As a leadership team, we do meet a couple times a semester to talk about the process, how it's going for faculty, if there's any interest in adding additional courses. But really, at this time, the progress report process is really built up around those high DFW courses or the Golden 4 courses. I just wanted to share this information with you. This is from Navigator, the intervention effectiveness tool. And I really kind of wanted to show you the positive impact that these processes are potentially having on our students' persistence from one term to another. These are categorized by those students who have received advising referrals and tutoring referrals. And the groups on the left, these are students who had those referrals and actually had an appointment because of the referral. And on the right, these are students who had the referral but did not have an appointment because of the referral. And what we can see here by the two groups is that students who have a referral from a progress report and attend the appointment, they are persisting at higher percentages than those students who had the referral and did not have the appointment. And of course, we know there's a lot of different factors that impact our students persisting from one term to another. But I think this shows us that, we are potentially having a really positive impact on our students' persistence from one term to another by, the work we do around the progress report process. And a really important part of that is the collaboration we have with our faculty, because we really couldn't do this process without your work on first filling out those referrals. So. But any questions about the materials I covered so far with you today? Okay, so now we come to the demonstration portion, and I'm actually going to transition into the Navigator application. And I'm just going to show you the things I already just covered so you can see it live in the tool. And maybe there'll be some questions that get generated from the demonstration. All right, so are we able to see the Navigator? Great, thank you. So I just picked someone who had just the professor role, the faculty role in the system. So what you're seeing here is what those instructors have if they just have that baseline faculty role. And so when you first log into the system, you're going to land on your professor home and you're going to see your current term courses. And you're going to see a roster of students who are currently in your courses. And this is a really great place to come to if you want some information about just, what categories are assigned to your student. Because you can see a lot of information here from service indicators, the student's cohort, if they're a part of OIP, or if they're a part of Metro, ERP, or EOP. So some really good information to get familiar with is the category column. And what we have here is the students' names, what classes are a part of. And below here is a section for the issued support referrals for the semester. If you're a faculty member who's received an invitation for the progress report process and you've filled those out, you can come down here and see which ones you've submitted, and you can see what work has been done within the case for the case process for that referral. As I've mentioned, the faculty role is built up around students who are in your current term courses. And so if you want to get to a student profile, you actually have to come to the students in my course area and select their name. And that's going to take you directly to their student profile page. All right, and so what we can see here is the student's overview page. It's going to give you a summary of the really important performance and progress indicators for the student. You can see the DF grades, repeated courses, information about cumulative GPAs, earned credits, credit completion. So if you need some quick information about your students, the overview page is a really good place to get familiar with because you can see what's really going on with our students. You can see what their major is, their ID, classification, most recent enrollment. And then down here is the categories section. And as I've mentioned, this is where you can see service indicators, if a student is a part of a specific cohort. And we can see that this is a fall 25 transfer cohort. So they're a brand new student to the institution. But this is a great place to go, especially if a student, some other information you can see here is if a student has a past due balance. So like any type of service indicator that might get put onto a profile, you can see that here in the category area. On the right-hand side, you should see their photo. This is an automatic import process from when they take their photo for their campus ID. Below the photo are the actions you can take from a profile. As we talked about earlier, we can add a note to a student's profile, and you can issue those referrals here. And I'll show you the actual process here in a moment. You can see if a student's a part of an active appointment campaign. And appointment campaigns are a really important process for our academic advisors because our academic advisors and our tutors at the Tutoring and Academic Support Center. And what the campaigns are is that we're taking a proactive approach and inviting students to schedule appointments with us. Maybe they're students in a high DFW course, and we've invited them to the appointment campaign. Maybe they are a part of a workshop at the Undergraduate Advising Center. Campaigns are a way for us to be proactive in inviting students to schedule with us. And we've had some pretty good success with taking that proactive approach and getting students connected with support. You have a section for student information, so just information about the student, date of birth, address, email, cell phone number. And at the bottom here, this is the student success team. This is going to be a really important area to get familiar with because certain students will have assigned advisors. If they're a first or second year student at the institution, they're going to have a undergraduate advising center assigned advisor. If they're a part of EOP and they're a first or second year student, they're going to have an EOP assigned advisor. Other assigned advisors you can see here are for the Metro program. They could have a Metro faculty coordinator assigned. They can also have faculty advisors assigned. Certain academic departments have moved forward with assigning students to their faculty advisors in the system, and you can see that information here under the success team. The other instructors you see here are the instructors that are teaching the students' current term courses. On the student profile under the History tab, this is where you can see where a student has been for support on campus. It's all going to be located under the Student's History tab. Apparently, the student is a new student, so they haven't been anywhere for support just yet. But if they had been to advising or tutoring, and I will find an example to show you here, but you would see all of those appointment records here, as well as any of the comments that were provided by the tutors or by the advisors. Also, if a student has been a part of a progress report campaign, or if there's been any cases created for the student or support referrals issued, this is where you could find that information. So the student's history is just a running list of all of the appointments or referrals that have been made for a student at the institution. Under the Courses tab, you can see the student's current term courses, what the actual course is, who the professor is, the days and times, and the modality of that course. But you can also see an unofficial transcript of everything the student has completed at the institution, as well as anything they've transferred in to SF State. Something I want to point out about the term details here is that as students progress through their coursework and they complete terms, you can see a term at a glance for the work they've done for each term. And this is going to give you term-specific information about the credits they've completed, their credit completion for that term, their term GPA, and whether or not they're in good standing.
Joshua, we've got a question in the chat
Of course.
from Melanie. She says, I'm interested in this platform and the way it enables cross-campus collaboration, but as a library faculty member / librarian who doesn't teach for credit courses, I don't have any access to Navigator at this time. Is there any possibility of bringing the library into the system / network?
Yeah, most definitely. We have the coordinated care role for staff members who are just outside of the academic departments or the advising units. So we could definitely talk about getting you access to the system. It would give you the similar access to what you're seeing here for the faculty role. So everything you see here would be really familiar once you get access.
And should Melanie then just maybe email you to kind of start that process?
Yep, most definitely. That'd be great.
Perfect. Great.
So under the calendar, you can see just a calendar view of when a student has class. You could also see when they have appointments scheduled. but you can get a better understanding of the appointments the student has scheduled or or what they've had at the institution by their appointments tab. And there is the conversation history. So certain users in the system are able to send messages to students. And so under the conversation history, this is just where you as a faculty member can go and see what has been communicated out to the students. And you can actually click into the message to see the body of the message. The baseline faculty role doesn't have the ability to send messages via Navigator, but the faculty advisor role does, as well as the faculty chair role. So if you have those elevated roles assigned to your account, you can send messages, but the baseline faculty role is just unable to. So some actions you can take from the profile is creating a note for a student. And so under the student's profile photo, you can click on add a note to this student, and that's going to load the note process. It's a fairly simple process. You have the body of the note. You can attach files or forms as needed. And you can also select a note reason. And this is that list of reasons that we developed with our faculty coordinator. If there's something that you think should be added to the list, you can definitely let me know and we can take that into consideration. But we have a pretty good list here, I think. But we can always add stuff. As I said earlier, any note you create is saved to the student's record. And if I were to save this note right now on the student, it would be visible within the student's history tab under the student's history. So it's just the place where everything is going to get funneled into. So any type of appointment record or note record. Another action you can take is issuing that referral. So issue a support referral. We can see the student's name. We can then select a reason. And we can see the various referrals we can make here. So maybe the student expressed a need for counseling and psychological services, as well as tutoring, learning support. After selecting the reasons, you can associate it with a specific course. It's not always required because this is a passive referral that just gets students the information they've expressed an interest in receiving. But if you want to associate a class with it, you're definitely able to do that if you would like. And you are able to make additional comments, but as I've mentioned, there is no case process here. It would just be saved to the referral record. But if I were to submit this, the student would receive two separate emails, one for counseling and one for tutoring, and it would just have the important next steps and information about those resources. So that is kind of the bulk of the student profile I wanted to show you, but are there any questions about what I've showed you so far in the student profile?
I have a question. How do I tell if I have chairs access? How do you tell what access you have?
Yeah, I can definitely check it for you. I recently went through and updated the permissions for all the chairs. So if you have chair access, you should have the ability to access the analytics as well. And that would be an icon on the left-hand side that it is for analytics. So if you can see that, you have chair access, but I can also double check after.
I have it, so I assume that I have it.
You have chair access.
And then I also had another question about we've been talking a lot about students don't answer emails. So, or look at emails, but there is a text option.
Mhm.
So, is that something you'll cover in a future meeting? How to how to annoy our students with text instead of emails?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of success with the text feature. So much success we had to pull back some of the permissions for some users, but for chairs, yeah, you can definitely send text to students, and it's a great way of calling attention to emails you've sent students. But we can definitely talk more about that. I wasn't going to cover it today because the baseline faculty role doesn't have those permissions, but we can talk more about that.
Thank you.
If it helps, maybe Christina, we can have Joshua come to the Chairs Council and do a similar training at the Chairs Council.
I think it would be very helpful. I don't know if anybody
Okay.
else might think it would be helpful. I guess the other question I would ask is, what are common campaigns that work? Like, is there a specific type of campaign that faculty have found success in terms of like, hey, it's time to register for classes. Make sure you do it now and don't wait, or those types of things that have been found to work that we can just institute easily, or that you have templates for us to use.
So we haven't really had a lot of faculty use the campaign feature. It's definitely something I think could be beneficial for the faculty advisors. You know, with appointment campaigns, there are just additional steps we have to take to launch. You know, potentially we might have to launch a new location for your academic department and just get people trained on building availability. So there are just additional steps we have to take. But for like the advising side of it, like the at the undergraduate advising center, they've had a lot of success with like graduation workshops, for new freshmen, just kind of like a meet and greet because they have assigned advisors. So, you know, that might be their first opportunity to meet their advisors through an appointment campaign. Michelle, would you like to talk about some of your successful campaigns at Task?
Yeah, happy to. So we run campaigns for all sorts of things. One that we have been doing for quite some time, Joshua mentioned, with the progress reports. So prior to the progress reports being issued, we invite students to schedule appointments for that specific course, and we send that out to all students, not just those who've been referred. So we then call the ones who've been referred. But I've also done campaigns targeting specific students. So I've looked at courses that have the most opportunity to increase student success. And I'll look to see, I can run a report to see students who are retaking the class. And I can communicate directly with them, either by email through the campaign, text, both, and or phone call. So we can do all sorts of outreach targeting specific groups of students. We've also used it, and it's not very often that we need to, but we target students who might want to consider applying to become tutors. So if we have difficulty staffing tutoring for a specific course or subject area, I can run a report in Navigator and look for specific majors or completion of courses, minimum GPAs, and I can extend out how far I want them to graduate. So we typically try not to hire someone for just one semester. So, I mean, there's no limit to the kinds of campaigns that we run. It's really just considering our imagination, and always relying on Joshua's expertise.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And as a chair, you have access. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Joshua, I wanted to add another use case here. As chair, I've used EAB Navigate, and what I would do is look at the prerequisite courses and students who've completed a prerequisite course to remind students in the next course to enroll in it and that they're eligible to enroll in it. So that's sort of a good way for retention, reminding students that they should be enrolling and that it's open for them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great use case. And we've had a lot of faculty express an interest in knowing what students are retaking specific courses, as well as students who are seniors and maybe haven't taken a specific course at one of the higher levels that is required for graduation. So I've worked with chairs and faculty advisors to find those courses. The baseline faculty role doesn't have access to the query tool, but the faculty advisor and chair role do. So we could definitely talk more about that at a future session because there's just a lot of possibilities with the query tool. The same with the analytic reports that chairs have access to. That's kind of like a jumping off point for future campaigns because those analytic reports, you can really find your populations of students and then subpopulations within a major. And that could trigger, maybe there's a specific need for students who meet certain population identifier marks, so there's just a lot of potential with the analytic reports. But yeah, thank you for that. Um, so I had a couple of activities I wanted to do, but we can just kind of see how this goes for everyone. I think a lot of people on the call might have additional access from than just the baseline faculty rule, but I wanted to see. So the first activity I want to challenge people to do is first log into Navigator. You can log in at the URL you see here. And upon logging in, you'll probably quickly know whether or not you have additional access beyond the faculty role. But what I want people on the call to do, I want you to navigate to a student profile, and I want you to take a moment to look at the categories that are assigned to a specific student. And can you answer, is the student a part of Metro, EOPP, SOAR Trio, or SSS Trio? So take a moment, log in, and see if you can find the category area and if they're a part of one of those programs.
And Joshua, I'm not teaching this semester, but as a department chair, is there a way to just see students?
Mhm. Yeah, so with your level of access, there is a search bar across the top of your home screen. You can type in a student's name, ID, or email, and that's going to be a quick search of finding their profile. Were you able to see that across the top? Oh, awesome. Okay. So the reason why I think it's important to know if a student is a part of one of these groups, um, the impact of them being a part of these groups is that they have assigned staff who are here to help them. So if you're working with one of these students and they're a part of one of these programs, you could easily refer these students to their assigned advisor. There isn't really a way to refer them within Navigator to that staff person, but you could easily find who that advisor is or a coordinator and email them through Outlook. But they have dedicated staff who are here to help them.
It's interesting to see all the different categories of students in here that like I wasn't even aware that these were like categorizations that the university, kept tabs on. Uh, aside from like the SSS Trio and Metro, I'm seeing like students who um, are veterans, and so they have like early access. Um, there was another one that was interesting to me, and I lost it. But oh yeah, like some of the student athletes have categorization. So it's just kind of interesting to get um, a kind of a look at your student and different aspects of their life that like maybe you don't see just sitting in the classroom.
Yeah, there's just a lot of information that gets put there in the category area. One that might not be really obvious is if a student has an academic minor. For some reason, with how the interface is built, there is no place for the minors to show except for the category section. So if a student is a part of one of your minor programs, the category area is where you would go to see that. Did anyone find out that one of their students is a part of Metro, EOP, or SOAR Trio?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jamie and I'm doing this and I looked at my one of my favorite students in my non-metro class and it turns out she's a metro student. She's
Mm.
so young and new and seems so like brilliant and mature. Please don't record me. I mean, I know I'm being recorded, but she has a mentor and said she was with some other programs. Oh, Success Pro. I guess I'm trying to just navigate what else I can know about her. And do we ever want to message students saying that they're just really great? Like if we chose our top student from each class, would that help us or them in any way?
I think positive affirmations are great. I mean, I feel like sometimes we always focus on, areas of concern, but we've seen a lot of success with other campuses who've had a real focus on giving those positive affirmations to students. We've even talked about having positive referrals for students. We don't have any yet, but it's definitely something we're looking into because I think it's important for students to hear the good stuff, when they're doing really great.
It looks like she has appointments too.
Hmm.
Task A21A raffle,
Oh, that sounds like an appointment campaign.
Spring 26 Metro EOPP FTF caseload.
Hmm.
Oh, she's only 19. This is weird. There's a lot of info.
Hmm.
Is there like a key or like a legend of like what some of these categories mean? Like I'm seeing English pathway category one, category two. I'm not sure like what those different categories mean.
Yeah, we definitely have one. We might need to make some edits to it because sometimes the unfortunate side of this is that people can add categories to the system without always notifying me. So it is kind of like a constant battle of updating the form. So I can take a pass through and just see what's in and then update the document and share it out with everyone. Awesome. Well, another activity is, Navigator records where students have been for support. And so I challenge you to find if your students have been anywhere on campus for support, and if so, where have they been? And if you need a clue, you can find all this under the History tab. Almost all the locations for like advising and tutoring, we do require that they complete the appointment summary reports for their appointments. For the faculty, we can't require them to complete the records, but we really encourage them to do it. And I've worked with them to like figure out how to do it and stay on top of it. But for advising and tutoring, you'll definitely see the records there. And also for career and leadership, study abroad, you might see some for athletics as well. Was anyone able to find a recent appointment?
I'm teaching mostly first year students this
Hmm.
semester, and it looks like several of my students, like it looks like they had advising appointments in August, so maybe that was like during their orientation.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna share. I looked up student in my class, and it's a little heartbreaking. What I saw was a whole bunch of task appointments that were canceled and they didn't show up. But a whole bunch of them. I mean, it's like a list of 10 appointments that they didn't show up for. And I mean, when I have advising with students, it's sometimes like half the students don't show up. And I'm irritated because I could be talking to somebody else if I knew. But anyway, it's I don't I follow up with the students, if they miss my appointment, but anyway.
I kind of wonder if that was from one maybe a reoccurring appointment. I know Task, they schedule reoccurring appointments for students in specific courses.
Yeah, that's my guess too, is that it's a weekly appointment that the student has just repeatedly missed, although we attempt a lot of outreach to those students. I also feel like that's an appointment that could have gone to a student who actually would have shown up. So what we do, however, is if that student doesn't show up and we have another student waiting in the wings for drop-in, we will support that student. So it's not that we're always turning people away. But if a student looks for an appointment and they don't see availability, sometimes that's enough, and they won't, try to come back. So we're making some changes to our weekly scheduling policy.
Jamie, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm looking up another student, and I just wonder if I should be worried about him. Last semester, it looks like he got only DFs and Ws. He seems to be on academic notice.
Hmm.
I mean, should I flag students like this in all of my free time for you guys, or are you
There is a process with the advising staff that they take on addressing this with students. So I don't think you need to flag the student in that sense. There is a process that is catching these students. There's definitely communication going out to them.
okay? He also said that he was detained by ICE,
Hmm.
but was let go. Um,
Do you mind sharing the ID with me in the chat and I'll go ahead and look into this?
yeah, and he's a citizen. Yeah, I worry. I'm now a little worried about him. Like if he didn't let anyways, yeah, I'll share the info in a private thing.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We are just about out of time, but thank you again so much to Joshua Rumley for walking us through Navigator. I feel like I have a much better idea of how it works and how I can use it. I'm gonna post once more in the chat a link to CETL's post-workshop survey, and if you all could take just a couple minutes to fill that out for us, that would really help us get some feedback on what was useful to you, and additional resources and support that CETL can offer you that will help you support your students. So thank you all of you again for coming today, and I hope you have a really wonderful and relaxing fall break and end of the semester.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.